Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys my game week 4 team selection. So I have not locked in my transfers yet, but I'm pretty certain of the moves that I want to make in game week 4. It's going to be a double change from my team, and thereafter I'll show you guys in today's video how the team would look like after making those transfers, and also we'll discuss a bit of my final thoughts and captaincy going into game week 4. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video. If you do, please do drop a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So on the screen right now is my game week 3 scores, but I've reviewed it quite a bit already in the previous transfer plans video, so I really will not spend too much time here. Basically, I got 73 points in game week 3. It brought me down to about 140k in the world, and I guess in terms of this graphic here, I really want to focus on the kind of players that I intend to transfer out. So I have a couple of options here because going into game week 4, I have 2 free transfers and 1.5 million in the bank. For those who have not caught up with the transfer plans videos, I have 2 free transfers. So Gordon, Saka and Isak are the ones on the chopping block. Latest thoughts right now are that I'm more likely to sell Gordon and Saka and keep Isak for a couple of reasons. I think in terms of looking forward into the future game weeks, Isak I can play for game week 4 and 5, but Saka I likely won't want to play in game week 4 because he has Man City, so not an ideal fixture. And also kind of in terms of the current situation with the Arsenal team, it is that Odegaard is going to be out for 3 weeks. That's what we're hearing at the moment. Declan Rice also wouldn't be playing in the better of the next 2 fixtures, which is the Tottenham game. So because of that, I'm slightly less bullish on Saka as I am on Isak for the next 2 game weeks. So I think the way that my transfers and my thoughts lined up going into game week 4, it makes more sense for me to sell Gordon and Saka. So later on when I show you guys the game week 4 team, you will realize that these 2 players will leave my team. So just a bit of heads up there. Let's now take a look at the kind of clean sheet odds for game week 4. So in terms of fixtures as well as clean sheet odds for game week 4, this is a practice that I do religiously every single game week, where I like to have a look at what the bookies think about the games for the weekend, how likely they are to keep clean sheets, how likely teams are to score goals, etc. Because bookies spend millions of dollars on models to help us to quantify or put into numbers how likely teams are to perform in a certain way. So because of that, I do like to give these numbers quite a bit of weight, so I will be showing the clean sheet odds for every single game week in the team selection videos. If you find this useful and you want to follow along, just hit the subscribe button and you will get notifications whenever I post team selection videos. But I wanted to break down the kind of odds that we're looking at here. So for Nottingham Forest and Brentford, it's not a surprise that they are the ones with the lowest clean sheet odds this week. They are playing Liverpool and Man City respectively. So 8% clean sheet odds for Nottingham Forest and 7% for Brentford. Simply, they are very unlikely to keep clean sheets. Liverpool and Man City are very likely to score, and players like Salah and Haaland are definitely the biggest captaincy shouts this week. But when I kind of take a look at the next lowest clean sheet odds aside from Nottingham Forest and Brentford, it's actually for Ipswich at 12%. So it kind of gives me a bit of confidence that for my own team as well, I'm looking to bring in one more Brighton attacker. I already have João Pedro, but I'm looking to bring in Minte in midfield, which I'll talk about more in the next section. But it gives me confidence that Brighton are predicted to score quite highly against Ipswich as well. And Ipswich only have a 12% chance of keeping a clean sheet. So something interesting there. And also, I guess in terms of some benching dilemmas that I've realized in some of the teams that you guys have sent me, it is that Porro and Gabriel is a bit of a benching headache. Some of you guys have both these players and they would be your third defender in a sense where you can choose one to bench and one to start. So I would kind of break it down into looking at the odds here in terms of a 16% clean sheet chance for Spurs and a 30% chance for Arsenal. So basically, Gabriel has almost double the chance of keeping a clean sheet in the same game than Pedro Porro. And I would say that that is kind of the core of points for defenders, that clean sheet points are the main kind of bulk of points for defenders. Now, for sure, both of these defenders are very attacking in their own rights, in that Porro is very advanced and Gabriel has good attacking threat. But I really would just think in terms of the likelihood of getting attacking returns or their teams keeping a clean sheet, I would give more weight to the clean sheet odds, and therefore, because of the fact that Gabriel has almost double the chance of keeping a clean sheet, I would choose to start Gabriel and bench Porro. So that would be kind of my thinking or analysis behind who to start or who to bench. And I always like to use the odds to kind of back this up. Now, say for example, it wasn't the case, and say for example, it was 22% for Spurs to keep a clean sheet and say 25% for Arsenal to keep a clean sheet, in which case it would only be a 3% difference, so it's very close. Then in those situations, I would favor the more attacking defender, in which case it would be Porro. So when it's closer, I like to favor the more attacking defender. But when it's not as close, when it's almost double the chance that we're seeing here where Arsenal have 30%, I would favor the defender with better clean sheet odds. So that's about the thinking behind it. Now, last point I want to call out in this graphic here is also that Wolves are 16% chance for a clean sheet. In other words, they are one of the lower teams expected to keep a clean sheet. And I would say that, Newcastle having poor away form, despite that being the case, Wolves still have a very low chance of a clean sheet. So players like Isak very well could do well in this game. Gordon as well, despite me selling him. I'm selling him as part of a combination move, so it's slightly different. But if you are in a position where you need to keep Gordon, you need to keep Isak, it's not the worst thing in the world as well. Alright, so there we go with the clean sheet odds. Yeah, hopefully it was helpful. You can, of course, pause the video at this point and just have a look in greater detail as to the different odds that we're looking at here with respect to the players you have. But for the time being, I'll leave it here. Let's have a look at my Game Week 4 team. So looking at my team for Game Week 4, as mentioned in the earlier sections of today's video, I do intend to make use of both my free transfers and make a double change to sell Gordon and Saka for Salah and Minte. Now, I did have quite a number of different variations of moves that I considered. Some of them also involve selling Isak, but I've kind of narrowed it down, as I've mentioned, to being more keen on keeping Isak for Game Week 4 and 5 than I am to keep Saka for Game Week 4 and 5. So the reason why I keep mentioning these two game weeks is because I've kind of decided for my own team that I will be wildcarding in Game Week 6. Now, I know many of you guys may not be on that strategy. I've looked at a couple of teams, and some of you guys are able to navigate Game Week 6 with free transfers, in which case that's perfectly fine as well, but it probably just means that you would be on a different kind of transfer route compared to my team. But I really just wanted to focus on Game Week 4 and 5. And thereafter reset my team from Game Week 6 onwards, because if I was to save the wild card, my team going forward after Game Week 6 would just not look very good for quite a number of game weeks as well. So I would feel that I would be losing out quite a bit of points. So I did think, after looking ahead into the future game weeks, that a wild card in Game Week 6 would be best suited for my team, and therefore I've kind of locked in the wild card by making these two moves. Because if you look at the team, I would be tripled up on Liverpool. I would also be tripled up on Brighton. It essentially means that come Game Week 6, when Brighton have a difficult fixture, which is Chelsea, the fixture for Liverpool are perfectly fine. In Game Week 6, it's Wolves, but thereafter from Game Week 7 onwards, it also starts to get tricky. So I do think, this does corner me into the Game Week 6 wildcard, but I'm fine with that because I have already decided that. And that's why Minte and Salah are coming in here to help me triple on Liverpool and Brighton. They do have great fixtures: Nottingham Forest for Liverpool and Ipswich for Brighton. As we saw in the earlier kind of clean sheet section, these are teams with very good chances of scoring against their opposition, so I'm hoping that they come good. Now, aside from the triple up on Liverpool and Brighton, the other players that I have here have not really changed, in that Henderson is still in goal for me. It's Leicester at home for him, so a very good fixture there, hoping he can keep a clean sheet. Robinson against West Ham, I would still choose to start him ahead of Porro, who is playing Arsenal, so he goes onto the bench. In midfield, the only player I haven't mentioned is Rodgers, and I've chosen to start Rodgers here ahead of Smith Rowe for a couple of reasons. I think West Ham's defense, firstly, is slightly better than the Everton defense, and also I think in terms of minutes that Rodgers is getting, he is more likely to get 90 minutes as compared to Smith Rowe, who has been getting about 60 to 70 minutes every other game. So it could very well be the case that maybe Game Week 4, Smith Rowe gets 90 minutes. But then I would be looking at the fixtures wise and looking how likely Fulham are to score against West Ham, then Aston Villa are to score against Everton. And looking at Everton's performance in game week 3, I would actually back Rodgers to get something there. So I would start Rodgers ahead of Smith Rowe. And then up front, there's Haaland and Isak, aside from João Pedro, who's part of my Brighton triple up. So Haaland here, I will discuss captaincy in the next section, but he and Salah both have really good fixtures. It's Brentford at home and then Nottingham Forest at home for Salah, right? And then for Isak, Wolves away. This is the one where I think a lot of people are selling Isak. I have chosen to keep him, and I do think like he could return quite heavily in this game because Wolves have been quite suspect in terms of their defending, even at home. So despite this being an away game for Isak and Newcastle's away form not being great, etc., I do think Isak has been performing at a level that is decent. I think it's still not as good as how he did in the later part of last season, and we know how good of a player he is. Over the international break as well, he did score quite a couple of goals for Sweden, and he also did mention in an interview as well that he feels as if he likes it better when people start selling him and he scores a brace against, the opponent. So could a brace be coming for Isak against Wolves? Let's see. Right, so I have him here and I've kept him. For the kind of bench options, as I've mentioned, it's Smith Rowe first on the bench for me, Porro against Arsenal second on the bench, and Johnson against Brighton last on the bench. So there we go with my team for game week 4. I will only have 0.7 million left in the bank, and I've used up pretty much 2 of my free transfers to bring in Salah and Minte. Let me know what you guys think of my transfer moves. I have not locked it in yet, but I'm very likely to make these moves barring any major kind of injury news that we get, and I will of course confirm these moves by the deadline stream, which is 3 hours before the deadline on Saturday. But if not, let's take a look at the captaincy algorithm. So looking at the captaincy algorithm for game week 4, Haaland comes up on top with 8.35 algorithm points, Salah next with 7.93, and Kevin De Bruyne interestingly at 6.05. To be fair, in game week 3, Kevin De Bruyne was quite unlucky to walk away with nothing because his expected goal involvement in game week 3 was 0.91, so it's really high. And I think the kind of algorithm has factored this in as well. Now, for those of you new to this section, basically the algorithm points is a weighted average value of predicted points from 3 different sources. So I basically collate all the different predicted points based on these 3 different sources and also thereafter weight them according to how reliable they are in terms of their predictions, and then kind of collate them together and present the highest 3. So Haaland here comes out on top. We've had a success rate of 3 out of 3 recently, so it's been pretty accurate. And I think it's also because the high scoring or high predicted points players have been delivering. So let's see how long the kind of algorithm can keep this up. But for this week, against Brentford at home, Haaland is the kind of algorithm choice in terms of captaincy. For those without Haaland, then Salah is a very close second as well in terms of predicted points at 7.93. So there we go with the captaincy algorithm. Let me know down in the comments below if you have both Salah and Haaland, who are you captaining? Because it's perfectly viable to just try to go a bit different. If everyone is captaining Haaland and you want to go against the grain, you can of course captain Salah. Let me know in the comments down below, but for my team, I'm probably going to stick with the algorithm's pick of Haaland. So slapping the captain's armband on Haaland, this is likely how my team is going to look like for game week 4. Now of course I have not confirmed these 2 transfers yet, but I'm probably going to make them on Friday after the press conferences, simply because I do think there will be another round of price changes then. I will be looking at a Fantasy Football Hub price change predictor, which you can kind of get access to in the link down below. It's 50% off still, but it's likely going to end very soon. So if you still are interested in that, you can use the link in the description. And if I have not made my transfers on Friday, then I'll probably just make them on the deadline stream instead. So I'll see you guys 3 hours before the deadline as always. But I think in terms of any more questions that you guys have with regards to game week 4, because there's quite a bit of changes here, maybe late injuries to Arsenal players, lots of different alternatives with many different moves that you can go for, drop your questions in the comment down below and I will be replying to every single comment within the first hour of today's video. If not, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do drop a like. Please do subscribe as well. The support on the channel recently has been incredible, and I do appreciate every single one of you subscribing. So if you've been watching the content all this while, or if you're new around here, please do consider just scrolling down a little bit and hitting the subscribe button. It's completely free, and you can always change your mind after that. So there we go. I'll leave it at that, and I'll see you guys on the deadline stream for Game Week 4 coming very soon. Bye-bye.